Well, welcome to Stone Cottage Adventures and the springtime tour of the house. We've brought the spring inside. The garden is starting to bloom, and of course it's daffodil season, so we have to have a big bunch of daffodils. And we also have the Lenten rose blooming. So what I do here is I clip just some greenery. I think this is maybe euonymus. And then I put some Lenten rose in a little tiny bottle that I have. And all on this shelf, the Lenten rose. And then up here, there is a branch that's getting ready to bloom. And I don't know if you've ever forced blooms, but this one is a pink flower. I have no idea what it is, but the buds are beginning to come out. You can see little pink buds. And over the next few days, it'll open up inside the house here. So great fun. And here are a collection of daffodils. Now I'm going to have you peek out. Don't get dizzy here. I'm going to have you peek outside, and you can see through the window the daffodils, and above it the flowering quince. My grandmother used to call it japonica, but it's a flowering quince. And here we have just a few little vinca that are blooming. The vinca is starting to bloom. I just have that in a bottle with some ivy. And I like to bring out things that remind me of spring, like the birds and some lighter colored things. Yeah, I've moved a bird in here, and there are a few birds on the windowsill, because when I look out, I put bird seed on the railing, and you can see, I think just one little friend, but sometimes I'll get a half a dozen of them out there eating the bird seed. And blooming there in the corner, that is just some kalanchoe that I'm getting kind of tired of, but it's blooming, so we'll keep it around. Now this is the flowering quince. I just have 2 stems of the flowering quince with some aucuba, also known as gold dust. And I don't have to cut as many branches because they're a woody stem. And when you cut it, it's gone. But I can use less of it when I fill in with a lot of pretty leaves. Now, this is an example of bringing out something that is very spring-like, and these are the Dresden candelabras, which are just such fun with the climbing roses all on the candelabra themselves. And even our music is, you know, because it's spring, we have our Springtime is Coming music out on the piano. Now, over here, don't get dizzy, I have changed what's in my china cabinet. And I have used my blue and white spode rather than Christmas plates. I had Christmas plates, obviously, at Christmas time, but here's the blue and white spode, which adds a little springtime air. And then an Italian bowl, a yellow Italian bowl that was my great aunt's. And in the middle of it, I'll open it up and I will show you one flower. This is from the Edgeworthia, also known as Chinese paper bush. When I wish you could smell it. It has an incredible fragrance. It's kind of a yellowy white waxy flower. It's just beautiful. And I only wanted to pick one because, you know, it'll last for weeks if I leave it on, but it'll go pretty quickly once I pick it. And then I've put in some, just some faux boxwood to add a little greenery, because I don't want water in my china cabinet. And the little Dresden salt and pepper shakers there. Again, very spring-like with really pretty different flowers painted on each one. And then there's my teapot. I think that has a nice feel for spring. Now I have added the lights. I'll kind of come down here so you can see those lights. Those are a wired one. They're not on battery. They're a plug-in light that I added. And this is the box that they came in. They're an LED light. And I just ordered ones that had, I think it's 8 different strips on there. And then there are 2 on each level, and then they just connect, and they all are powered together. So that's a fun way to add a lot of light to the cabinet. And here is the library. I haven't done a whole lot in here. We have our amaryllis. But that's it. I didn't add a lot of flowers here. Now coming under the archway and into the back part of the house. Our candles lit. And under my cake dome, I don't have a cake, but I have my wicker balls. And I seasonally change what kind of flowers in there, and then the white and purple status give it kind of a spring feel. And sadly, my African violets are not blooming, but that's okay, because over here, another of this is a different color of Lenten rose. I think it makes a pretty little vignette there with the Lenten rose. Now on top of my armoire, again, I don't want water up there, so I use, it's a faux begonia leaves is what it is, but I seasonally change, and those are some big faux hydrangeas, so I can change what's up there without having to make a big production and not having to worry about watering or anything. There are my antlers. Interestingly enough, I did not take down the greenery. That's his Christmas greenery, but oh well, now you know. And our tray back there has flowers on it, which again I think add to the spring feel. Now I'm gonna have us take a quick little peek out in the garden, and you can see the forsythia is blooming in the garden. Yeah, I know there are a lot of leaves. It's a little messy here, and maybe I'll step out just for a minute. It's rainy, but right there in the center of the screen, that's the Edgeworthia, that Chinese paper bush that I picked just one of them, but that's where it's blooming. And you can see things are starting to come back, but it's lots of forsythia, which is kind of weed-like at this point, but I still like it. Now on my table, I've brought out my little Dedham rabbit candlestick holders, Dedham pottery, and a fun little multi-headed daffodil with some, that's just some dried leftover, what do you call that? Baby's breath. Baby's breath, and a little faux boxwood greenery, and mixed in with that is some moss to create a nice spring little setting for the table. Now, in the family room, do you see it? There's my forsythia. We'll go take a closer look at that in a minute. But over here, on my little pie crust table, there's the heating lamp too. Pardon that, that's not terribly attractive, but my son likes that to warm up with. But right here, in this blue and white vase, is some of the akuba, the gold dust, and I have put in with it something that blooms in the spring, and I have no idea what it is, but it looks kind of like baby's breath. And again, I don't want to chop it all down, so I fill it in with the greenery. And I bring out my gardening books for the season and my bird books, because I love watching the birds in the springtime. And then over here, my camellia is blooming in the back. And there's a nice, beautiful pink camellia. And here's the forsythia. Now, I do not mind picking a whole bunch of forsythia because it really does kind of litter the yard a little bit. But what I like to do is I like to pick some branches that are not blooming at all. And I don't know if you can see, like this branch here is not blooming. The others are. So what's going to happen is the flower petals will drop and the green leaves will come in. And then the one that's not blooming at all, he will bloom. So I can have this last for a couple of weeks with different plants, different branches taking over the blooming duties, while others go to just start their leaves. But just a fun little addition. And then here on the side table, another one of the Lenten rose. And I don't know if you've noticed or not, but the Lenten rose, we have like 3 or 4 different varieties. And this one is a deep burgundy color, which is really pretty. I thought that looked really pretty with the fabrics here. And looking back toward the kitchen, so you can see the kitchen a little bit better. And going into the bedroom. And of course we have a bunch of daffodils. They're great fun. And this one is another faux arrangement that I keep year round. And this time of year I put in the faux forsythia. This vase, I love this vase, but it has a little hairline crack in it, so it leaks. And so I only use faux florals in it. And you can see outside here, you can see some daffodils blooming on the ground. And this is where our camellia is. It's starting to bloom. And out this window, there are loads and loads of azaleas, which make a wonderful show a little bit later on in the spring. And on my little shelves here, more. There's a lighter color of the Lenten rose, and we can look outside the window and you can see the forsythia. And if you look real carefully, you can see some daffodils. And even more carefully, if you've got really sharp eyes, you might see a little vinca down there, kind of on the edge of the pathway, the closest side. There's a little bit of vinca blooming, but that's hard to see because there's a little rain on my windows today. And then another little shelf with more Lenten rose on it. But I love waking up and looking over and seeing the pops of yellow from the daffodils and the forsythia, and then looking out the window and seeing spring coming on. Very excited for spring. So glad you were able to join us today. If you've enjoyed the tour, be sure to hit the like button. We really appreciate that. It helps the channel to grow. And happy spring. Try forcing some branches, if you have the luxury of having branches in your yard, and cut them and bring them inside and put them in water, and you could have some flowers before spring sets in, although spring is really coming early for us this year. Anyway, happy spring. See you next time.